Today on the John Ankerberg Show, modern science discovers the universe had a beginning. What are the implications of this discovery? Do the words, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," accurately describe what science has discovered? Astronomer George Smoot at the University of California, Berkeley declared, "What we have found is evidence for the birth of the universe." He added, "It's like looking at God." Arno Penzias shared the Nobel Prize in Physics for the discovery of cosmic background radiation. He said, "Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing, one with the very delicate balance needed to provide exactly the conditions required to permit life, and one which has an underlying, one might say, supernatural plan." Astronomer George Greenstein, in his book The Symbiotic Universe, asks, "Is it possible that suddenly, without intending to, we have stumbled upon scientific proof of the existence of a supreme being?" And Stephen Hawking has conceded, "It would be very difficult to explain why the universe should have begun in just this way, except as the act of a God who intended to create beings like us." My guest today is astronomer Dr. Hugh Ross, who received his PhD in astronomy from the University of Toronto and did postdoctoral research at Caltech on quasars. He is the author of many books, including his latest, Navigating Genesis. We invite you to join us. Welcome to our program. We have a fantastic one for you today. We're talking about what God has told us in Genesis 1, and then we're comparing it with what modern science has found, how it supports it. When you put these two together, it is incredible. My guest today is astronomer and astrophysicist, Dr. Hugh Ross, and today we're going to jump off from where we were last week, where we showed the universe has a beginning, a start. The scientists didn't always want to come to that conclusion, but they were forced by the evidence to admit that the universe had a start, a beginning. And it was relatively recent ago in terms of time in the universe. For example, you say that stars, Hugh, could burn 80 billion years. But the fact is, you've also said that the universe is only 13.8 billion years old. So something had to start it. Something has to give here. And that's what we're talking about. What did God do and what did God say in Scripture? Now let's take them back to the very first verse. You have this amazing statement, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And the Hebrew linguists tell us that where the verb is at, where it's placed in the sentence, tells us a lot about what's going on here. Talk to that.
Yeah, the placement of the Hebrew verb in this sentence tells you whether or not you're getting a time-ordered sequence. And we're seeing in Genesis 1:1 through to 1:3 is that, yes, the universe is created first, then the earth is formed, and then we move into creation day one. So we're actually taking the whole point through time in a very purposeful way.
Then you notice when you came to verse 2 that all of a sudden the shift came in terms of the vantage point of the one that was talking. You come from the whole heavens to the earth, and it says this, "Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters." What are the four things you find there?
Well, it begins by saying it's empty and unfit. In what context? Well, the rest of the chapter is talking about life. So I interpreted that it was empty of life and it was unfit for life. Water covered the whole surface of the earth, and it was dark on the surface of the waters, and that God was going to tell us what's taking place in the 6 days from the point of view of an observer on the surface of the waters of planet Earth.
I find it interesting that when you were a non-Christian reading this, the current scientific viewpoint at that spot was that the earth was never all covered with water, but
Right.
that came into being later on. Talk about that.
Well, I had the advantage of taking classes at the University of British Columbia from the individuals who are responsible for launching plate tectonics. And it's plate tectonics that tells us that the Earth indeed begins with a universal ocean, and then gradually continents form. And so that vindicated to me my understanding of what Genesis 1 was saying when I was reading it for the first time at age 17.
All right, we're going to go to the first clip in your beautiful documentary movie to show them a little bit of what we're talking about, how God created and designed this world. And we're actually going to take a step back, that God placed our Earth in just the right spot in space, in our galaxy. And folks, you won't believe this. Watch.
Earth has been hung in precisely the right location to receive all the elements that are essential for life. Even though the stars in our galaxy are as numerous as the grains of sand on this beach, namely about 100 billion, many astronomers are now convinced that it's extremely unlikely that there could be another habitable planet anywhere among them. Even if the just right planetary system were to form from the just right elements of dead stars, there is another critical factor to consider. The life support planet must be positioned at the just right location within the galaxy. Near the center of our galaxy, conditions are too congested. With billions of stars in a relatively small volume, gravitational tug-of-wars make the survival of life-supportable planets impossible, and the radiation there is intense, far too intense for life. Toward the outer edges of our galaxy, the stellar population becomes too sparse for planet building. The heavy elements generated by supernovae and white dwarf binaries are too few and far between, not enough building material to make planets. At almost any distance from our galactic center, conditions within the spiral arms prevent planet formation. Amazingly, our particular solar system resides at the perfect location in between spiral arms, neither too close to the center nor too close to the outer edge. Our just right location not only permits our existence, but it also allows us to see and explore our region of space. No wall of high-rises, no big dust clouds block our view.
To me, Hugh, that's just amazing. Somehow that gripped me. And also in reading some of your texts, the books that you have written, I've realized that that little place where Earth has been placed in space, in our galaxy, also gives us a window back that's clear, that we can see all the way back to the beginning, so you astronomers can actually track the events. And that window in which we can track all of these events is very, very small, and we're in it right now.
We are.
Talk about that. Why?
Okay, well, in order to get the elements we need for human beings and civilization to be possible, our star must form close to the center of the galaxy where there's loads of heavy elements. Then it must get radically kicked out to a safe spot where life can exist. And so we're currently in that safe zone where we don't get beat up by nearby stars and gas clouds or radiation. But that safe spot is also the best possible location in the universe for us astronomers to observe not only our galaxy, but all the other galaxies in the universe, and actually have the capacity to see all the way back to the beginning of time itself, and therein discover that compelling evidence that there must be a creator beyond space and time that did all this for us.
Place us back into Genesis 1. We actually jump back into Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, going toward verse 2, where God actually placed Earth.
Well, it begins with God creating the universe. And before we get to verse 2, God very carefully designed the universe and the formation of the solar system within that universe so that verse 2 is even possible. And then in verse 2, we get the stage set for God to create life here on planet Earth.
Yeah. Before he puts us on Earth, he gave Earth protection. And that's what I want the folks to see next. That when we talk about God designing and fine-tuning our world and the universe, we're not kidding here.
Okay, I want you to watch this clip, and we're going to show that Jupiter, a huge planet, has been placed in just the right spot so that we would have protection here to live. Watch this.
The next stop on our flight is the giant planet Jupiter, 10 times farther away from us than Mars. Jupiter is 40 light minutes away from Earth. That means it takes light from Jupiter 40 minutes to reach the Earth. Jupiter is such a colossus that it outweighs by 2.5 times all the other planets in our solar system combined. The giant red spot we see as we look at the top of Jupiter's dense atmospheric layers shows a 2,000 mile-per-hour hurricane raging for centuries. To give some perspective, that spot is 4 Earth diameters across. Researchers in the 1990s sought to probe Jupiter's many mysteries, such as the degree to which light penetrates those thick clouds, and whether the planet has a rocky core or just super dense frozen gases. In the course of their investigation, they discovered evidence of Jupiter's importance to Earth life. Jupiter is positioned and dimensioned to shield Earth from collisions. The planet's nearness and mass typically deflect comets and asteroids that are moving on a collision course with Earth. Occasionally, Jupiter itself takes the hit, as in this 1994 encounter with comet Shoemaker-Levy. Though each fragment of Shoemaker-Levy was smaller than Manhattan Island, 21 of them raised fireballs more than 10,000 miles high and made Earth-sized bruises in Jupiter's atmosphere. Any planet capable of sustaining life needs a just right-sized Jupiter standing guard to shield it from life-ending asteroid and comet impacts. Jupiter's size and position are important to Earth life for yet another reason. If Jupiter were any larger than it is, or any closer to Earth, its gravity would wreak deadly havoc on Earth's orbit. Jupiter is a just right size protector in a just right location.
Now, Hugh, this clip is amazing, but some people might say, well, that's just the way it is. It happened, we were lucky, okay? But you're saying there's over 850 characteristics of the universe that you scientists have found, and that when you add them all up, it's not lucky. This goes way beyond lucky.
Way beyond lucky, such that you're looking at less than 1 chance in 10 to the 1,050th power that this could happen without divine miraculous intervention.
What would that be compared to?
Well, that would be compared to, say, you winning the California lottery 150 consecutive times, or you buy just 1 ticket each time.
So the fact is that as astronomers have looked at this, what are the conclusions that they have been forced to accept?
Well, you got people like Paul Davies declaring in their books that there's overwhelming evidence that has been designed. He describes himself as an agnostic, but he says you can't deny this evidence for design. It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere.
Theologically, what does this tell us about the one who created all of it?
Well, it tells us that the one that created space and time and the whole universe must also be a personal being, because we're seeing a degree of fine-tuning design that requires far more intelligence and knowledge and creativity and power than we human beings can manifest. And those are attributes that only a personal being can possess. So this God that created the universe is not just some kind of distant ethereal force. It's actually a personal being.
We're going to talk more about this when we come right back. In fact, we're going to talk about another one of the fine-tuning characteristics of the universe that you won't believe. We're going to talk about Saturn and Neptune and the orbits. And if they weren't just the way they are, the fact is it'd be catastrophic for life. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
If you would like to have all of the information in today's series, Science Discovers the Universe Had a Beginning, All 4 half-hour programs with astronomer Dr. Hugh Ross are available on DVD for a gift of $49. And you may order this series now by calling us at 1-800-805-3030.
All right, we're back. We're talking with Dr. Hugh Ross, astronomer and astrophysicist, and we're talking about some of the characteristics of the universe that God has designed and built in that are absolutely necessary, that scientists are discovering. And I want to go to another clip in his movie, Journey Toward Creation, that we're making available to you. And this has to do with some more of Earth's neighbors, and we're going to talk about not just Jupiter, but also Saturn and Neptune and their orbits. I want you to watch this.
Traveling another 40 light minutes out from Earth, we arrive at another giant planet, Saturn. Saturn has about a third of Jupiter's mass, and it still outweighs all the planets other than Jupiter by several times. 1,000 Earths would fit inside Saturn's volume. The next 2 planets we encounter are also gas giants, Uranus and Neptune. Uranus is 15 times more massive than Earth. Like all planets this large, including Jupiter and Saturn, it's mostly gas. Uranus, like Saturn, is surrounded by concentric rings, but unlike any other planet in the solar system, its rotation axis points toward the Sun. Neptune, just slightly larger than Uranus, features a great dark spot, presumably a large, stable hurricane like Jupiter's Great Red Spot. Neptune's largest moon, Triton, orbits in the opposite direction to the planet's rotation, leading us to conclude that it was captured after Neptune's formation. Neptune is more than 4 light hours away from Earth. From Neptune's surface, the Sun would appear as just a bright point in the sky. Neptune is so frigid that ammonia and nitrogen would liquefy there and gasoline would freeze. These 4 gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, travel in unique, almost circular orbits on a horizontal plane around the Sun. This stands in stark contrast to gas giants so far discovered outside our solar system, which either orbit too close to their stars or have elliptical and/or non-horizontal orbits. Even a slight deviation from their appointed paths would be catastrophic for life on Earth.
Hugh, when we look at that, it's absolutely astounding to realize how God has created and designed the universe. And Earth seems to have gotten special attention here, which is where we're going to. We went from the universe in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, to now coming to the Earth. And it looks like God has given special attention to this little blue dot that we're on. Is that true?
It really is true, and we see that testimony in all the other planets in our solar system. To get the best protection from these hits from comets and asteroids, Jupiter must be the biggest, Saturn must be the next biggest, and you want smaller gas giants behind him. You need all 4 in their special orbits. And the other thing we notice about the orbits are such that you don't get these mean motion resonances which would disturb Earth's orbit. And to really make it work, you need these small rocky planets accompanying the Earth to break up the more minor mean motion resonances. Literally every planet in our solar system plays a crucial role in making advanced life possible here on planet Earth. So it testifies to the fact that everything that God created is for the specific benefit of life on Earth, and especially for human life and human civilization.
Now, the Bible itself tells us that God created and designed the laws of physics, and he fixed them right from the beginning.
Yes.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about and where we're going as we tell this story of Genesis 1?
Well, there's 3 things about the laws of physics. They make life like us possible, They also enable God to put human beings on a planet where we can see the entirety of the universe and therefore discover them through our observations. And then thirdly, those laws of physics are fine-tuned, designed to be tools in God's hands to efficiently and quickly eliminate all evil and suffering and prepare us to enter into a brand new realm, what the Bible calls a new creation, where evil and suffering will never exist again and our free will capacities actually get enhanced.
And when we say that God made it possible for human life to be here, we're not talking about evolutionary means. We're talking about God actually creating man and putting him here. And when he got here, the fact is he had an environment that could sustain him, aren't we?
We are. I mean, Psalm 104 tells us that God packs the earth with as much life as possible, as long as possible, and as diverse as possible in order to endow our human beings with all the tools they need to cooperate with God to bring about the end of evil and suffering and prepare us for the new creation.
And again, you've said that going back to the time that God brought the universe into existence, you, as astronomers, have this down to what, 13.8?
8 billion years.
All right. But you're saying that man can only live on this planet for how long?
Well, to live in a civilized state where we can be used by God to help him or work with him to bring about the end of evil and suffering, we're looking at about 20 to 40,000 years maximum.
So you have a very small window on 14 billion. All of that time leading up to when God put man here on the earth is preparation. Give me an illustration of what that preparation is like.
Well, the astronomer that discovered this says this must tell us that there's someone beyond the universe who has an extremely high value and purpose for humanity because of the enormous difference between the minimum time to prepare a place and the maximum time we can live in a civilized state. And a good analogy is a marriage ceremony. That lasts about 20 minutes if you don't count the music. And yet when you look at how much is invested for that 20 minutes, the average American wedding is more than $20,000, and over a year of time is spent preparing for that wedding. But we don't consider it a waste because of how valuable and purposeful those 20 minutes are. Likewise, this enormous inequality we see in the astronomy tells us there must be someone who has a very high value and purpose for human beings.
And Genesis 1 actually tells of how God is created, but it comes up to the important part of placing man here. And the whole biblical story is that the Creator then comes into his creation and dies and pays for our sin and is the answer to the problem of evil.
He's the one that conquers evil. I mean, we're part of the stage, but he's the one that ultimately conquers all evil and actually gives us a pathway where we can be delivered from evil if we so choose. So he's shown us how to do it. He himself paid the penalty for all of our offenses, and if we so desire, we can trade our moral imperfection for his moral perfection and then enter with him into the new creation.
Folks, I want you to become fascinated with what God is telling us in Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, and we're trying to also bring the scientific evidence in that supports this, but we're also going to show you how God cares for us and his marvelous plan of salvation through Jesus Christ. Next week, we're going to jump to the fact that scientists have found there's no evidence on Earth of any primordial soup, which means the question of where did life come from arises. And some of the scientists are saying they're looking to other planets for life to come from there. That's why you hear this talk about planets in the news all the time. They might have found water here, they found something there. What are they driving at to try to sustain their assumptions? We're going to talk all about that next week. I hope you'll be with us.
Stay tuned for scenes from next week's program. If you would like to have all of the information in our series, Science Discovers the Universe Had a Beginning, it is available on DVD for a gift of $49. What scientific evidence has led astronomers to conclude the universe had a beginning, just as the Bible says? What evidence shows God meticulously created and designed the universe so human life can safely live on Earth? And how has God positioned Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune to protect the Earth? How did God exquisitely design the sun, the moon, and the stars for man's benefit? All 4 important television programs in this series are available on DVD for a gift of $49. We are also making available a second series entitled Step by Step Through Creation, in which Dr. Hugh Ross and I will take you verse by verse through Genesis 1 and 2 and show you how the biblical account of creation can be reconciled with scientific evidence today. The 4 programs in Step by Step Through Creation are available on DVD for a gift of $49. Third, we have written 2 new study guides with extensive notes that parallel our 2 television series. Each study guide contains 4 sessions for your personal study or Bible study group and is available for a gift of $8 each, or for 5 or more copies for $5 each. And fourth, we are making available the 70-minute documentary movie Journey Toward Creation, which will transport you by state-of-the-art computer animation out into space and back in time, past stars, galaxies, and quasars, all the way back to the moment the universe came into existence, and show you how God meticulously created and designed the universe. This updated second edition movie is available on DVD for $30. And finally, if you wish to order all 5 of these items together, that is, both television series, plus the 2 study guides, plus the documentary movie Journey Toward Creation, they are available together in a special package for only $120. And to order now, you may call us at 1-800-805-3030. That's 1-800-805-3030. You may also call that same number on any workday, or you may order these programs now at our website at jashow.org. Next week on the John Ankerberg Show,
The predominant view in the 19th century was that the universe was eternal, without a beginning, and it didn't change over that time. Today we know it has a specific beginning. We're talking a beginning only billions of years ago, not quadrillions like people once thought, and therefore there is no possibility for a Darwinian explanation to life's history.
And to learn how to start a relationship with Jesus Christ, go to our website at jashow.org and click on Pray to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior.